Ask any Hindu how long the Kali Yuga lasts, and the answer comes instantly: 432,000 years. Ask how long the Dvapara Yuga before it lasted, and they will double that number without hesitation: 864,000 years. These numbers are so deeply embedded in Indian consciousness that questioning them feels almost sacrilegious. But here is the problem. If you accept these durations as literal chronological periods, then the Ramayana took place over 800,000 years ago, and the Mahabharata took place over 400,000 years ago. That would place both epics firmly in the Paleolithic era, long before the emergence of agriculture, cities, writing, or any form of organized civilization. No archaeological evidence supports human civilization at those dates. No geological evidence supports it. And most critically, the internal astronomical evidence within the Ramayana and Mahabharata themselves points to dates that are dramatically more recent. Something does not add up. Either the texts are wrong about their own astronomy, or we are wrong about what the word Yuga actually means. The word Yuga appears at least 38 times in the Rig Veda alone. In its earliest usage, it does not mean an age of hundreds of thousands of years. It means a generation, a period of time, sometimes a long span, sometimes a short one. The root word is yuj, meaning to join or to yoke, the same root that gives us the word yoga. A yuga, in its original sense, is simply a joining of time, a span, an era. It carries no inherent numerical value. The specific durations that most people associate with the Yugas, the 432,000 years of Kali Yuga, the 864,000 of Dvapara, the 1,296,000 of Treta, and the 1,728,000 of Satya, come not from the Vedas, not from the Ramayana, and not from the Mahabharata. They come from a very specific category of text. They come from the Indian astronomical tradition, principally the Surya Siddhanta and the Aryabhatiya. This is the critical distinction that almost everyone misses. The ancient Indian intellectual tradition did not have one definition of Yuga. It had at least four. There are theoretical definitions of Yuga, there are philosophical definitions, there are practical definitions, and there are chronological definitions. These four categories serve completely different purposes, and they were never meant to be used interchangeably. The theoretical definition is the one everyone knows. Kali Yuga equals 432,000 years. Dvapara equals twice that. Treta equals 3 times. Satya equals 4 times. The total Maha Yuga cycle equals 4,320,000 years. This formulation appears in the Surya Siddhanta and other astronomical texts. But what is it actually for? It is a mathematical framework for calculating the orbital periods of celestial bodies. The number 4,320,000 is not arbitrary. It is precisely divisible by the orbital periods of every major planet known to Indian astronomers. It provides a common denominator, a shared epoch length, within which the positions of the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn can all be predicted and reconciled. It is, in modern terms, a computational constant for astronomical calculation. It was never designed to measure historical time. It was designed to measure celestial mechanics. Think of it this way. In modern physics, the speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. That number is used in equations across all of physics. But no one would use the speed of light to measure the distance from your house to the grocery store. It is a constant with a specific domain of application. The Yuga durations in the Surya Siddhanta function the same way. They are constants with a specific domain, which is positional astronomy, and applying them outside that domain produces nonsensical results. That is exactly what happened when someone, at some point in the last 2,000 years, took a theoretical astronomical constant and applied it as a chronological timeline for Indian history. We do not know exactly when or how this confusion began, but we do know that it was not always the case. The Mahabharata itself, in multiple passages, clearly states that the war took place at the junction of Dvapara and Kali Yuga. The Valmiki Ramayana states that Rama lived during the Treta Yuga. These are chronological statements about when events occurred within a Yuga framework. But neither text assigns a specific number of years to those Yugas. The 432,000-year framework is imposed from outside, from the astronomical tradition, onto the historical narrative. The texts themselves do not demand it. And here is what makes this so important. If you remove the theoretical Yuga durations and look at the actual evidence within the texts, the dates become testable. The Ramayana contains nearly 600 specific astronomical descriptions, references to star positions, planetary alignments, solstice points, and pole star identifications. When these are analyzed using modern precession calculations, they converge on a date of approximately 12,209 BC for the events of the Ramayana. The Mahabharata contains similar astronomical markers that converge on approximately 5,561 BC. These are not speculative dates. They are derived from the same precession mathematics that modern astronomers use to date historical observations. At 12,209 BC, the Ramayana falls in the Treta Yuga. At 5,561 BC, the Mahabharata falls at the junction of Dvapara and Kali Yuga. Both statements from the text are preserved. The Yuga sequence is intact. Nothing is contradicted. The only thing that changes is the duration assigned to each Yuga, from hundreds of thousands of years to a few thousand years. And that change is not a revision of the tradition. It is a correction of a misapplication that was never part of the original tradition to begin with. The evidence for shorter Yuga durations is not limited to astronomical back calculation. The ancient texts themselves contain an alternative framework that has been hiding in plain sight. A Maha Yuga is described as lasting 12,000 divine years. A divine year equals 360 solar years. That gives a total Maha Yuga of 4,320,000 years under the standard interpretation. But there is another reading. If a divine year is understood not as 360 solar years, but as one precessional degree, roughly 72 solar years, the total Maha Yuga equals approximately 26,000 years. That number closely matches the precession cycle of Earth's axis, which takes approximately 25,772 years to complete one full rotation. Under that framework, individual yugas last between 3,000 and 6,000 years, which is precisely the range that accommodates the astronomical dating of both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. The precession cycle is not an obscure number. It is the single most important cycle in observational astronomy, governing the slow rotation of the night sky over millennia. The idea that ancient Indian astronomers, who demonstrably tracked precession with extraordinary precision, would have calibrated their yuga system to this cycle is not radical. It is expected. Now, a fair objection. The Puranas explicitly describe 432,000 years for Kali Yuga, as if it were a historical duration, not merely an astronomical constant. That is true, but the Puranic chronological tradition was compiled centuries after the Vedas and the original astronomical texts. It is entirely possible, and increasingly likely, that the Puranic writers inherited the 432,000 year number from the Surya Siddhanta tradition and applied it as literal chronology without understanding its original computational purpose. The conflation had already taken root by the time the Puranas were composed. That does not make the Puranas unreliable. It means they preserved an error that was already old when they recorded it. None of this diminishes the concept of yugas. If anything, it restores them. The philosophical meaning of the yugas, the idea of a cyclical progression from a golden age of dharma through successive periods of decline, remains completely intact. Satya Yuga is still the age of truth. Kali Yuga is still the age of conflict. The moral and spiritual framework, what changes is the assumption that this cycle spans millions of years rather than thousands. And that assumption was never a core teaching. It was a computational artifact from a specific branch of technical astronomy that was incorrectly generalized to all of Indian chronology. The consequences of this single error have been enormous. By accepting yuga durations of hundreds of thousands of years, Indian civilization effectively erased its own history. Events that can be precisely dated through astronomy, events that correspond to real geographical locations, real genealogies, and real cultural memories, were pushed so far into the past that they became myths by definition. No civilization could have existed 800,000 years ago, so the Ramayana must be fiction. No organized society could have fought a war 400,000 years ago, so the Mahabharata must be allegory. The absurdly long Yuga timeline did not protect Indian history. It destroyed its credibility. It is as if someone took the mathematical constant pi and used it as a calendar date. The number is real, the application is wrong. 432,000 years was never a date, it was an equation. And once you understand that, the entire timeline of Indian civilization comes back into focus.